Innovation, it's supposed to be the key to recovery and to success. But is it better to be a big corporation with deep pockets and shareholders, or a lean and mean entrepreneur? Well, we have one of each with us today from the Leadership Summit Asia. Colin Low of GE Southeast Asia, thank you very much for being with us. And Kevin Ryan, who's an INSEAD alumnus and also a very successful technology entrepreneur. Thank you very much, both of you, for being with us. All right, the first question has to be, what does innovation mean to you? It's sort of the buzzword today. Colin, let me start with you. You're the one with the deep pockets.
Well, innovation for me means changing the status quo. You know, it's about impacting on the customer and really creating full value for them at the end of the day. So that's essentially what innovation means to me. We've got, you know, when you categorize innovation, you can actually categorize it into two different buckets. One is products, services, and technology that the business is involved with. It could be also a second area, which is on business models and also leadership. So I think those are the two primary areas that I see innovation. And
you're in a business right now, Kevin, that changes in a nanosecond. So what does it mean to you?
Well, I think in my background, as you said, mostly in the internet. And so I think it's doing something different. It's providing a product or a way of doing business that hasn't been done before. And sometimes it can be a dramatic shift, and sometimes it can be quite a subtle shift, but one that makes the difference for a consumer and makes that person say, I'll use product A versus product B.
And can you do that, in fact, with a click? Your company was sold first to some equity investors and then to Google. So
in '96 we started DoubleClick, and then eventually was sold to Google for a little over $3 billion about 2 years ago. And it was a pioneer in internet advertising and the technology that supports it. So yeah, you can start companies with very little money and a few people and a good idea. And that's what's exciting about the internet, which makes it appealing to entrepreneurs, whereas there are some industries where you need enormous amounts of capital, worldwide distribution, that are better sectors for a GE or another company to really play in.
But if you're going to be innovative and create the kinds of machinery or whatever tools you need, you also need to change your portfolio mix, I would imagine.
You're right, Charlie, you talked about investing in key leading edge technologies also, which is in the 4 global research centers that we have. You know, the primary one is in Schenectady, New York. We have the second in Munich, Germany, Bangalore, India, and Shanghai in China. You know, two of the last two being in emerging economies, the 2 fastest growing economies in the world. And what better place than to have 2 global research centers there?
So, and in the portfolio mix, sometimes people have said it's a little hard to see where you have an entertainment and a TV network in there somewhere. You could sell it to Kevin, see? I mean, where does your money come from for your innovation?
We generally fund the companies ourselves for the first 6 months, and then we go out and raise VC money. So the vast majority of money that I've raised in the last couple of years has come from either private equity or venture capital firms. So I probably raised $150 million from probably 5 or 6 different firms in about 10 different rounds during that time.
And is it getting harder now, or are people still betting on the CEO, I imagine?
Yeah, I mean, I think good venture capitalists bet very heavily on the team and the market. So there are a bunch of ideas that can work, but if you have a big market and a great team, it'll probably work.
So even in a climate like this, has the financial climate tainted the innovative climate? There's
less money available, but actually the financial markets going down hurt the private equity firms more than the venture capital firms. If I start a company tomorrow and you as a VC invest in 6 months, you're really counting on the fact that by 2012, 2013, we'll really start to be a substantive company. And no one is thinking that by 2012 or 13, we won't be doing much better as a world economy. If you're a private equity firm, you're worried about debt covenants this year, next year. It's a very different issue. So venture capitalists have been the least impacted.
Now, you had sold DoubleClick ultimately to Google, so you kind of were their R&D in this little niche. Is this a model where you're buying smaller companies that maybe do all the legwork and it becomes part of your stable?
Well, I think the model for how we work now is learning from the experiences of companies like Kevin's in the VC world, where we see small startup companies that have access to leading edge technologies. For example, in energy, We see that this is a model that we have to adapt into part of our growth process. Identifying, for example, we've got a $300 million green fund that's looking at a VC type acquisitions. So very similar space, but it allows a big company, a $183 billion company like GE, to have the nimbleness of a VC company like Kevin's.
You've got a lot going on as well in this part of the world, in Asia, which is somewhat surprising. I had asked you why you're now responsible for Cambodia as opposed to Vietnam, thinking that maybe the company wasn't that interested in Vietnam, and you told me a very different answer.
Okay, well, actually, we're very keen on Vietnam. We've grown to the point now where we have to get a dedicated CEO for Vietnam. So we continue to invest. Singapore, for example, continue to be a focus. Singapore had one of its best years back in 2008. We almost hit $1 billion in revenue for GE. And in markets like this, it certainly allows us to, it lends itself for platforms for research and development and innovation. We got a R&D facility for water, for example, for the water and process technologies business located here in Singapore. For them to how do they become relevant to the marketplace, as Singapore is one of the centers for water technologies.
Kevin, would you look at selling more of your businesses to a bigger company? Do you feel your pockets are deep enough? I mean, you're clearly very innovative. He's got tons of money here, but also a big infrastructure probably doesn't appeal to you very much. I mean, how do you see your future here?
So for each one of the companies, I look at it individually, and so anything, these are businesses, they're not children, so one can always be purchased. I never think about an exit strategy when I start a company. You think about building it and making it as big as possible and as profitable as possible. If you can do that, which is hard to do, by the way, but if you can do that, you have all kinds of options. Lots of people would like to buy it. You can get private equity, you can get some liquidity that way, you can take it public. You don't have to worry about it at that point. It's just hard enough to make it profitable. So I don't really look actively to sell unless I think at some point that it's a business where we need more scale and we can't do it on our own. Most internet companies, that's not the case, but sometimes you can find that you want to have more market share and that either a larger partner would help, or more likely often is that merging with another internet company would give you more critical mass.
Where do you see yourself being in 5 years?
So I really like what I'm doing, and so I can't imagine anything more fun. I feel like I have a lot of control. I feel like starting something from scratch is one of the most difficult challenges in business because there's always some reason why someone hasn't done it before. It's very risky, and there's nothing better than having a really dedicated, excited team that's sort of fighting against either bigger competitors or lots of other competitors. So I think it's really fun. So I don't have any plans to do anything different, but at some point I'll revisit that if I get bored of it.
And what's your, when you look at GE and you think, we were really innovative in this particular area, is there something that comes to mind?
I think when you talk about innovation in this region, I think having 2 research centers, one in China and one in Shanghai, China, and second in Bangalore, India, makes a very big difference for us in terms of being very close to the markets, understanding the market needs, and being relevant. Take, for example, we developed the ECG machine in India, in Bangalore, India. And this is a $3,000 machine that the village doctors use to go out into rural areas to treat patients. So if you talk about 3 years ago, we wouldn't have the ability to go into this kind of marketplace. So the ability for GE to innovate in a region, an emerging market like China and India, and developing products that have different price points to access these different market segments. And not only that, the ability, the success of this products now, we're now translating these products and selling it to other emerging economies. So there's scale, there's connectivity to the local markets. So certainly a big boost to revenue for a company like GE.
Do you see yourself being active in this area and in Asia? I mean, you're in the internet, so you're everywhere. But is this a big part of your business?
Yeah. So in my in Gilt Group, which is my largest company, we've expanded to one other country, which is Japan, and so that's the second biggest luxury market, or one of the biggest luxury markets in the world. And so far, it's going very well. And so we're looking at other Asian as well as European countries to expand into.
Great. Thank you both very, very much for being with us, Colin Low and Kevin, Ryan.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank